So this is I'm going to do like a Klinkhammer, basically like the Hans van Klinken method, but we're just a little bit different at the end. So obviously you can tie like parachutes on like a grub hook, but I think for it to be a Klinkhammer, it's got to be on a proper Klinkhammer hook. I don't know if I've shown you these before, but these are from Fly Time Boutique. They're really good. They're Klink hooks, but they're barbless and they're cheap, and they are really good. So actually, you can pass them out if you have that. Mm-hmm. So this is a pattern I called the Yak and Black, because it's got a black wing post. So a lot of the times when you're fishing parachutes, obviously they have like come with a white wing post or a pink wing post, but sometimes when the water's really got a lot of sun on it, a black post shows up a lot better. So it's just good to have a. So I'm going to cut. This is just poly yarn, black poly yarn. So I'm going to cut a length of that. So this is a method I don't like using for parachutes. I'll do a method I usually do, but this is I'll show you why I don't like this method. But so basically, I'm going to run the thread on to cover like the thoracic region of the hook, and then if I bring the thread back up again and land it halfway in the middle, that should be where the post is going to live. So here's our poly yarn. So the Hans van Klinken method is basically he ties the wing post so it's tapering down the hook. So we'll do that. So I'm going to get this post density right, I basically need 2 layers, so I'm going to fold it in half. Place it on top of the hook shank, and then you can sort of pinch and loop it into position. Make sure it's on top of the hook. Check I'm happy with the position. I can adjust that. So now we're going to tie this in. See, I don't like doing this method, but this is how it was originally done. So we're going to do a really long tapered cut on this, and then we can tie in as we go. Nice and neat, try not to leave any stragglies. And this basically gives you the taper for your abdomen. So tie that in nice and neat. You can So I'll tidy it all up, and then while I'm down the bottom this time, I'll put the dubbing on. They do size 8 to size 18 as well with these. Yeah. They are quite nice. So the dubbing on this is just some ordinary natural yak, some dark brown yak. So again, the same as before, get a clump. Just tease a tiny bit off.
How does that compare with alpaca?
It's very similar. It's just Tina at Chevron, she had a load of it, and it's really nice to use. But it is basically the same as alpaca. So again, I've got my spike of dubbing, and then we want it really skinny on the bottom, because that's the part of the fly you want it to pierce through the surface film of the water. So you want it really skinny on the bum, and then tapering up. So you've got the sort of natural taper there already from the way the poly yarn is. So just take your time, make a nice neat. See, that's a bit fat. Oh, I'll let it go. So one of the reasons why I don't like this method for the parachute post is, on this side of the hook, I've basically got a bare hook. On this side of the hook, I've got a great big fat bit of blooming poly yarn tied in. So there's two different, you know, either side is sort of a, you've got a massive discrepancy. So we'll just post that up a bit. And one of my real pet hates with parachutes is I hate seeing what you'd call like a tall stack parachute. So some people would post the posts, like, you know, go up like 3 or 4 mil, and they have a really like high stack parachute. You think basically they do that, you've got all that parachute and it's only the bottom 2 turns of hackle that are actually touching the water, the rest are up in the air. So I'd like to try and keep a nice compact sort of flat parachute that doesn't creep up, so you know all the fibres are keeping the fly afloat there. So we've got our hackle. This is just it's quite a big chunky furnace saddle, so I've sort of gauged I've cheated a lot of the hackles I've brought with me. I've already sort of sized them, so I haven't got to faff around looking for the right size hackles. So there we go. We've exposed the stem. So what I like to do when he tied his Klinkhammer, he tied it so that the good shiny side of the hackle was facing down, so the fibres sort of curl up, just makes the fly sit deeper in the water. If you want it to sit higher up, or to use it as more like an indicator sort of thing, you know, you can tie it with the hackle with a good side up, you know. So I'm going to lay the stem behind the post, get a turn on that, and then tie it in front. So I'm basically tying the stem to the hook shank. Again, I want it so that I've got a bare bit of stem there. So you can see, if you tie it in too close, you'll see when you go to try and manoeuvre the hackle, you'll get just a load of fibres sort of splay out everywhere, then you know you've tied it in too tight. So I'm going to now post the hackle around the stalk, the post. Just get a few more turns in front of that post to try and cock it up. There we go. So now we've got a peacock curl thorax. So that's nearly seen its day. It's pretty.
It's not going to fly again,
No. So I'm just going to cut 3 of them off. Roughly line up the tips, and just so I've got a nice turning point with the tips. And then, so a nice peacock curl thorax. So it's going to differ a little bit as to the Hans recipe in a minute, because we'll wind our thorax. So we've got a peacock curl thorax, so we get several turns behind the post, several turns in front. Really make sure that the underside of the post, sometimes you're not careful, you get like a bare spot in the middle, and obviously that's the bit the fish are going to see, so make sure your peacock curl is a nice even spread underneath, because that's going to be the fish's view. So I've still got the thread sort of parked in the middle, so now I'm going to wiggle the thread through the peacock curl, tie that in. So this is where my sort of what I do and what Hans does differs, because Hans would have now finished at the eye and cut this off, and then he would go to a really fine thread to finish the fly off around the post, which is what I'm going to do, but I'm just not going to bother changing thread. I can't see the point, because it's It's basically like an 8/0 thread. It's pretty fine. So normally, every time I wind a parachute, I wind my parachute that way round. So it complements the way my thread goes. But I wind my thread that way, parachute goes that way. You trap less fibres when you're winding, you know. But this is the only time where I'm going to tie around the post. I'm going to wind the hackle in the other direction. So crease the stem. Start winding the parachute. So I'm going to get a turn, and then each consecutive turn I want to go below the previous one. So we go for sort of 5 or 6 turns. We'll go for 1 more. So now we're going to tie off around the post. So jiggle your. I'm trying to go under the post. I'm not trying to go through under the. I'm trying to go under the parachute, not sort of through it. I just sort of trap this stem in. That's what I've got to make sure I do. So there we go. So that's that tied in. And now you do a slight rotational thing. So hopefully you'll still. I'm just turning that round. And then, see, I can't see it. They go to the really fine spider web thread, but if you're careful, you can just do it with ordinary. And now I've got a whip finish, but I've got a whip finish underneath the parachute.
Almost all the films I've seen, they take the hook out and
Yeah,
reset it.
as long as you've got a vice you can move, you can just.
Put it in the jaws with
Yeah.
the point, the head facing down.
Yeah, no, I just making work for yourself.
Yeah.
So we'll trim that off. I'm not very happy with this. This hasn't gone very well. This might definitely be a fly out of the pot coming out. But you get the idea anyway. What you can do, I'd sometimes use that hook, if they do get a little bit awry, the hook on the whip finish tool, to just, you can use it to go around the post and just, you can sort of preen the hackle parachutes with it. Just dump them into, there we go. And then just trim off to the desired length, which is too short. See, I'm not happy with that. That's definitely, you're definitely looking at the other one.
True Blue Peter fashion.
Yeah.
You get through it, but sticky through the back.
Yeah. Oh, that one looks nice, huh? Yeah.
It's any different.
So there you go. So it's nice. It's black post. Obviously, it's great when you get loads of sunlight on the water. Sometimes a white post just vanishes. So it's really good for clink and dink, or it's just a great dry fly in itself. Anything hatching, and see, because most of the flies underwater, it's a great fly for rising fish that aren't really in the mood. So it's